Well, I want to welcome you to day 10. I'm so thankful for the many people joining us here in Central Illinois and throughout the country. And as we go through these 21 days, remember to spend time with other people who are fasting. This is where you'll draw strength and encouragement. And this Friday, January 16th, starting at 6 p.m., you'll be able to do just that as we come together for a night of prayer on the Peoria campus. I'm looking forward to this time as we gather to seek the Lord, and I hope you can join us. Today, as we continue in week 2 of our fast, we're talking about developing a relationship with Jesus, an everyday relationship with Jesus through community. And we're talking about how the Lord uses community in our life to accomplish his purposes in our life. And yesterday we talked about how he brings truth to our life through community. And in a similar vein, today we're going to touch on how God sharpens us through community. You know, one of the best known and often quoted verses from the book of Proverbs says this: "As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another." Now, this passage is telling us that the Lord uses godly community to sharpen us, meaning help us develop spiritually, to prepare us for the ups and downs of life and challenges, and so that we can continue to be all that we can be for the Lord. So, for example, have you ever used a dull knife? It's pretty pathetic. When a blade becomes dull, it becomes much less effective in its work, and it's the same way with us. Our effectiveness for Christ in what he has called us to do in this life will wane if we aren't sharpened. Now, that speaks to the importance of godly community, but the question becomes, how does that sharpening occur? Does it just happen automatically? Well, think about a blade for a moment. For a blade to be sharpened, there has to be resistance and friction. See, sometimes when we read iron sharpens iron, we think of two identical pieces of iron that are exactly the same, sharpening one another. So think kind of like when a hibachi chef strikes his knives together just before cutting up a piece of chicken or shrimp. But the reality is two blades cannot sharpen one another, at least very well. For one thing to sharpen another, it has to have a different edge or texture that can provide resistance and friction. It'd be kind of like a file to a blade. Now, don't hear me wrong. This isn't about starting conflict to sharpen one another. What the passage is telling us is that in order for us to truly be sharpened, we have to intentionally surround ourselves with other believers who we allow to say difficult things and who can provide a different perspective that God can use as the grit to sharpen us. And usually the type of people that God uses to sharpen us will be people who are a season and a step ahead of us in their walk with the Lord. Doesn't mean they're the only ones, but I found that's been my experience. And I know he can do the same for you. So lean into those type of relationships and watch your effectiveness for the Lord grow. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you right back here tomorrow.